John, why don't you introduce?
All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Sitting out here, beautiful summer day with my nephew Nick, and we got Waddy back here catching frisbees, and we got Daisy over there. And we want to do just an interview. Nick has done some of these interviews throughout his career, so he asked me if I didn't mind getting interviewed. So I don't know what the subject's going to be, but I'll give it to Nick to take it away.
Hey, everybody. John mentioned interviews in my career, and I've kind of been doing some of those professionally for a little while. And I always found it kind of interesting to pick people's brains. So me and John were talking about kind of his path in life and how he ended up where he ended up, and we were mostly talking professional type of stuff. But it was interesting, so I figure might as well take a minute and pick his brain a bit more on camera.
All right.
So anyways, John, and anybody that knows him personally probably already knows this, but maybe some of you don't. So John's been a lawyer for how many years?
30 years this year.
Yeah?
Yeah, it'd be 30 years.
Dang. And he finished up his career and spent a lot of it at Legal Aid in Summit, Wayne, and Stark.
Stark, yeah, some out east, Youngstown area, Mahoning, Trumbull, that area. So.
Okay. So we were talking about kind of how did he end up doing what he's doing? Because like many of us, he went to college. During his undergrad, he figured out that he wanted, or that you said a professor talked to you about possibly looking at a legal career, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did a undergrad in political science, criminal justice. My first thought was maybe I'd be a police officer, and it's probably a good thing I didn't, because I don't know. I think it'd be a really tough job, and but that's what I started out. And of course, you take criminal justice, and then you take some political science courses, constitutional law, and my con law teacher encouraged me to think about law school after that class. So I did. I didn't really know any lawyers, and nobody in the family. In fact, at that time, nobody in our family of 6 kids had gone to college. Maybe Carolyn started and Kathy, but none of them had graduated. The other 2 sisters afterwards did graduate, but none of us, including my mom. My mom hadn't even got her high school diploma. She had to drop out to work back in the day. So anyway, so the idea of becoming a lawyer was not something real familiar to me, but this professor kind of encouraged me, and then I had another class in undergrad that was really all about social justice, and it really kind of moved me to think about ways in which law can promote social justice, promote the betterment for people, and so that was kind of the impetus to get into law school.
Oh, I see. So John's had a bit of a winding path in how he's accomplished or went through his legal career, and I know shortly after college you went kind of the more corporate and even divorce lawyer routes.
Yeah, I wanted to get into court, so I did child support work for the county, and that got me into court a lot, and then moved on to different counties where I took a supervisor role, and then eventually took a job in a private practice firm, smaller, county seat. It was a more rural area. We had a good practice, and so I did that until I took a pretty wide career jump and entered the Jesuits.
And the funny thing about that was nobody saw it coming.
Yeah.
John, so my mom is John's older sister by like 14 years?
Yeah, 13.
13 years, and you know, so, so John's stories through her were always him being like a little hooligan growing up, and really kind of spreading seeds of chaos. So when the idea of him becoming a Jesuit, a Catholic priest, was disseminated, it was I think it was almost laughable for some people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the guys in the firm I was working, they weren't convinced that was going to work. I was going from a lucrative position to the Jesuits. I think paid $30 a month was the salary, but of course you lived in community and had your food and clothing and all that sort of taken care of with that, but yeah, it was a the Jesuit, the idea of becoming a priest, I don't know, it's one of those. They had a nice 2-year program where you could go see, and they, this is not like your traditional parish priest where you're going to have a mass on Sunday and confessions and baptisms and those types of things, funerals. The Jesuits were more out in the world, and I guess that's part of their calling, and tied a lot to education, but also tied to social justice. So it was a nice opportunity. They liked the fact that I was already a lawyer, and they could put me to work, and they did. When I joined, they had me in a homeless shelter in Cleveland, giving legal advice or taking cases that nobody else would take. And in Detroit, there was this Law on Wheels, and it was interesting. So it was a good experience, plus many opportunities to do like spiritual retreats, the 30-day Ignatian spiritual exercises I was able to do because I joined the Jesuits. And so I think it was the right choice. It was certainly a great experience, but I did not stay. Towards the end of the 2 years, I realized that the vows were not going to be for me. So anyway, I left, and that led me to a career with legal aid from there.
So the family pool of will John make it through or will John not make it through paid out to the non-believers, but it wasn't much of a payout.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I was a little bit too young to gamble at that point, but I would have, I don't know, I might have bet for you. The odds were pretty good.
Yeah.
So after that, you did legal aid, and I guess the impetus of this original conversation was that I'm kind of like in a spot where I'm trying to figure out what's a little bit more of my calling, so to speak.
Right.
So we were talking about kind of the formation of, like, I don't know, your personal code or your integrity, your moral system, whatever you want to call it. And I'm 40, so I'm feeling like I'm still, like, grappling with this, and it took me a while to even get to the point of grappling with this. So do you find that, like, especially your time with the Catholics, like, helped you to hone in on that, maybe, or?
Yeah, you raise an interesting point in your question, in that, you have to want to look to see internally, do I have a purpose? What is that purpose? So you have to be a little bit of a seeker, and some people never get to that point. So it's good to be at that point, I think, at least, saying, well, what's my calling here? I can make a living, right? Or I can, do stuff to improve, the whatever it is I think I can improve in this world and make a living, and those two things are compatible if you seek them. So, my time with the Jesuits, Yeah, there's a lot of great experiences there, and you just have to be open to opportunities. If you're given an opportunity in life where you can take some time off to follow, a spiritual path, um, I think that's worthwhile because we certainly spend a lot of time on our mental or educational paths, our health paths, and there's a spiritual nature to us. And so, we need to spend some time with that. So that's what the Jesuit experience allowed me to do. Um, it just so happened that, I took I did a 3-day retreat, then I did an 8-day on more of a vocation, and then I ended up, applying and joining them. But the having that time was really precious, because not a lot of people could do that. So I was in a spot where I was making decent money. For the most part, I could get my bills paid off. I actually owned 2 houses at that time, and I could sell those houses. And so I was in a spot financially where I could do that. Not a lot of people were. Now, the Jesuits, the nice thing about them was that they didn't pay they paid, like I said, your room and board or whatever, and, that was fine. But the only bill they would pay of your personal bills was your student loans.
Mm.
So it was nice there. You could do that coming in there with student loans. A lot of my colleagues had student loans. So I had this opportunity to go do this 2-year trial run. And that opened up other doors because that summer, before joining, I was able to go with my friend Mark to drive to Alaska. So, we got Papa coming over, so we may
Okay, we may take a little break
we'll
here.
take a little break. But so I'll get to the Alaska thing. How many people get to spend 6 weeks driving back and forth from Alaska? With a good friend. And if I wouldn't have joined the Jesuits, I'd never been able to do that too. So we'll continue as we go.
More on white privilege right after this.